Okay, welcome everyone to our one word workshop. Sarah and I were discussing choosing a word for your year, and I've heard that concept before, and I've done it a couple times, but I've never paired it with an oil. And so today we're going to talk about choosing a word to kind of set the tone for your year. And we're going to go into why we do this, but we're going to go over what oils you can use from our Canadian market and the value of doing this. And then we're going to share with you what oil we are going to choose and what word we choose for ourselves for the year. So thank you guys so much for joining us. We're grateful that you took the time out of your day to share with us, and we're excited. We're going to get started.
That was just me knocking over some oils because I brought a few that I wanted to refer to, and I thought I would open them and use them and as we go along here. And if anybody does have oils with them that they want to use while we're going along, then by all means do that. But anyway, sorry for the noise. I should have done that before we started. Got to have our oils. Okay. So choosing a word as a concept I learned maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6 or more years ago, and could be quite a bit longer than that. But the reason it has really stuck with me is because it's really a simple and meaningful way to set an intention for the year. I think sometimes, well, I know this time of year people get bombarded with all sorts of things, and I have a very strong inner critic that tells me that I should be doing all sorts of things, like losing weight and getting my habits in order and balancing my checkbook and every other thing. And I think sometimes that can just be really overwhelming. And while I do believe in goal setting, I think sometimes it's just good to have something simple and like sort of a touchstone for intention that each day you can check in with yourself about, that's really positive, that's focused, but not feeling like an onerous task that we have to take on. So the idea of keeping it really simple is to find a word that represents an area of growth or a need or a way that you feel that you're being led sort of spiritually or emotionally or physically, and just recognizing this is an area that I think I need some work. And I want to bring my attention and focus and energy to that word, to that idea. And of course, it will mean what it means for you. So somebody might choose one of the words and it has a totally different connotation for them in terms of how they use that as a touchstone in the year. And so it's sort of tapping in a little bit to your intuition and sort of that inner guidance to say, what is it that is the word that needs to represent my movement for this year? And there's a few ways we can do that. So you'll be thinking about that all the way through the presentation. But if you have something that's like an area of growth or need or desire even that you want, like I know just before we started, Esther was talking about believe and wanting to really believe in your own potential, to grow your business or, to accomplish something this year, that might already be kind of present there. And then this would just solidify that intention, for example. But you can think about emotional, spiritual, relational, physical sort of realities at the end of this year. Where do you feel you are and how do you want to move forward into 2021? And of course, you can do this any time of year. It's just that we have sort of a natural tendency to look at fresh starts and stuff at the beginning of a new year. And we all need those fresh starts this year. So it's a good time to be doing that reflection. But there's lots of ways to interpret this. And so we really want you to make it your own. And as you participate in the workshop, jot some things down, questions, comments, things that resonate, make some notes, and we'll have some time for questions at the end. But kind of see where your gut instinct takes you.
So we use our essential oils to support our health and wellness, but one of my favorite aspects of oils is emotional support. And when we use our oils consistently, they can have a really profound impact on our emotional well-being, on our mental health, and on our physical health. And Sarah and I are going to share some testimonies in a little bit of breakthroughs we've had with oils. And so these oils aren't just good smells to put in the diffuser. Yes, we like to replace candles and scented waxes and things that are harmful for our health, by putting oils in our diffuser, but they're actually doing amazing things for our health while freshening our homes and smelling great. And so essential oils and the scent of or the sense of smell is in our body is the only one of our five senses that bypasses the thinking part of our brain. It goes right to the limbic system, which is our emotions. And when we use our oils consistently, we can see amazing things happen at the cellular level, whether we've been through big traumas, little traumas, emotionally disruptive things in our lives. These oils can actually help us move past those things and beyond them. Because sometimes we can get really stuck or overwhelmed, and just having something tangible, something practical in the moment you can do when those moments arise are an amazing tool for you to have in your home. And I know they've been amazing for me. And I find that I always have oils with me in my purse, on my counter, on the shelves, in the bathroom, like everywhere in my home, I have oils. And it's really neat to see that, as you know, from week to week or month to month, the ones I go to tend to change. And so, like Sarah had said, trust your gut, trust your instinct. You're going to know which oil you need to use for this year after the end of this presentation, or you should have an idea. But our bodies know what we need. Like sometimes we can't figure it out in our own head, but we just got to trust our gut and our instincts and intuition. And so for Sarah and I, we've had some really amazing things happen when we used our oils for emotional support. And so we're going to talk about that with you today.
Do you want me to start, Rebecca?
You go first, Sarah. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. So as I said before, I've been choosing a word for the year for a long time, long before I ever knew anything about oils. And so I actually chose, I was an English teacher, chose the word abundance for last year. And I wasn't even thinking about oils. It's just that I was growing and expanding my company. And, I was taking further risks. I have like sort of a history of a story of leaving, a very golden handcuffs, cushy teaching job with the pension to go out and go back to school as like an almost 40-year-old woman, et cetera, et cetera. And this was like a new layer to that risk, committing to a new space and expanding that to include the store and so on. So I knew that I needed to have like an abundance mindset, or I wouldn't take the risk. And so I was already thinking like, even just that, like the verse in the Bible that talks about, that God can provide abundantly more than we could ever ask or imagine. Like I was kind of focused on that mindset. Like this is a journey that I feel called to. And so that expansion, right? So I also love the abundance oil, as it turns out. So I thought, well, that would be cool if I just started kind of wearing that as like my signature scent for the year. Which incidentally, I get comments on that all the time of people asking me what is it that you're wearing all the time? And it's almost always abundance or valor and probably a whole bunch of other stuff too, but that's sort of the main one people ask about and comment about. So what's interesting is I started to use it just daily. Like I just put it on the morning when I go out for my day, and that scent was with me all the time. And, I signed my lease in February 1st. And then March hit of 2020. And I thought, what is happening? What have I done? Like I used to be working at home, and now I'm the one who's like signed a lease to not work at home. And that doesn't even make any sense this year because everybody else is coming home to work and I already had that gig. So what am I doing here? And asking sort of those existential questions about like, well, where is this going to take me? So long story short, I, persevered like everybody, pivoted through 2020 and said, okay, well, I really feel I'm supposed to be here. And so I'm just going to keep moving forward and keep that abundance mindset. And then a weird thing happened in the summer because abundance is a photosensitive oil. So photosensitive oils are ones that you should not wear in direct sunlight. So in the summer, you should always move those oils to, if you're wearing them topically, to parts of your body that are not exposed to the sun. Well, I'm a redhead and super sensitive and spend a lot of time outdoors as much as I can. And so I kind of stopped using it in the summer. And I totally realized in hindsight, not at the time, but when it got to the fall, I thought, I have such a scarcity mentality. I was starting to get really worried. What am I doing? Am I going to have enough money to keep paying my rent? Like, this is crazy. Why did I decide to do this crazy thing? I started having all this mindset shift. And I realized I'd stopped using my abundance oil, which seems crazy, but this is the kinds of things that happen all the time with oils that you can't explain in any other way. And I just realized that it was the fall, and I thought, well, it's getting to sweater weather. I could start putting it on again. And what I should have done is started to put it like on my lower back or on the bottoms of my feet just to keep it in my system. But I just took a break for that photosensitive reason and really noticed a change. So then I got it back on, and then all of this expansion, I hired 2 more people, like the store opened, like so much more happened towards the end of the year. So that's a very sort of long-winded way of saying that this was my touch point word. I paired it with an oil. The oil was super supportive in keeping my mindset focused, supporting me emotionally in having that idea and not feeling a scarcity mentality in a year where I think everyone had a scarcity mentality. So I'm addicted to abundance, but it worked. So that was my word for this year. So that's my story.
That's amazing. That's awesome. I love that. So my testimony is I used 3 oils, Stress Away, Peace and Calming, and Valor every day for 6 months. And this is why. Back in 2017, my husband, he's in the military. He was deployed for 6 months to South Sudan, Africa on a UN mission. And that was his first deployment. we'd never experienced that before as a family. And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to need some support for stress and the emotions at that time. So I have them right here, Peace and Calming, Stress Away, and Valor. And I chose those ones needing emotional support for stress. And so every morning and every night I was putting them on my chest, putting them on the back of my neck, and even anytime when stress arose. And fast forward to the end of the deployment, we made it through the deployment. It was great. And he came home and everything was great. Now we're going to back this story up. In the 80s, so 1980s, I had something happened with mice. My family and I had been away from the home for a couple of months. And when we got back, I was getting dressed one morning. I stick my hand into my dresser drawer, seriously, into a mouse nest, like fur mama babies, disgusting. And so from that day, I had this terrifying fear of mice. Like, it got to the point that I knew I had a serious problem. So, and I would do everything I could think of to overcome this fear. And then fast forward to 2010, I'm sitting in my grandmother's living room. It's Christmas time, and I can hear the gifts rattling a little bit. I'm like, oh my golly, there's a mouse. And so the mouse runs across the floor. It doesn't even run towards me. And I can feel fear come up the back of my neck and just like hover. And I thought, I have a problem. Like, this is a problem. Okay, that's the end of that story. The deployment happens, 6 months of using these oils. Springtime happens, and I'm outside and I'm whippersnipping, doing some yard work, and this little mouse runs by. And I promise I've never uttered these words before in my life. I'm like, oh, cute, a mouse. And I keep on working. I wasn't even wearing rubber boots. I had like Crocs on my feet, which is a huge vulnerability with mice. And so I keep whippersnipping, and I just laugh right out loud. And I was like, I've never said those words before in my life. Normally, I would have thrown the whippersnipper and had my husband come back and finish the job for me, and I probably would never whippersnip again. And so I just laughed and so that was almost 3-4 years ago now. That has not come back. My fear of mice is gone, fear of snakes, like all that's kind of gone. And it was from using those 3 oils consistently for 6 months. I wasn't even trying to get rid of my fear of mice. I was just looking for emotional support. And so my testimony with this is these oils will do things for you you don't even know you need to have done. And there's so many other little testimonies of my own that Sarah has, that other oily people have. like seriously emotionally life-changing testimonies. And so that's kind of what makes it fun, is you use your oils because you love them, you use them because they smell great, and you use them because you don't even know what they're going to do for you. But they are natural, they are plant extracts, they are designed to support our health and wellness. And that's just kind of the fun part of using them, is we use them because we love them, and you never know what they might do. So yes, they help us carry away the stress and cope and manage it. But sometimes there's little surprises along the way as well, which is super fun. So yeah, that is one of my oily testimonies that was extremely life-changing for me and for my family. And it's funny because now I'll see my son, Daniel, he's the oldest. He reacts the way I used to mice. And I just laugh. I'm like, Daniel, you need to be using peace and calming and stress away every day.
You know what is so interesting when you say that, Rebecca, is that I think about, in psychotherapy, we talk about immediate, latent, and cumulative responses to things, and in our systems. And so related to trauma, related to, our lived experience. And so we can have immediate, like, just like you're saying, you're feeling stressed, you do some deep breaths with stress away, and you can have some immediate relief. Then you can have like latent relief, like maybe, you do that on a Wednesday and you're still, having some support from that on a Saturday, you're not feeling as stressed out or whatever. And then you can have the cumulative effect, which is over time, consistently using that, you're not noticing what it's doing, but over time, it's created this support in your system that you're maybe not even aware of. And so there's all those layers in oils as well.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, like say walking like as a practice or something that you're doing for wellness, if you go for a 10-minute walk to clear your head, you're going to clear your head and have a little bit more focus and energy. If you go, for a couple of weeks, you're going to get into consistency, maybe start sleeping better. But if you do that for 6 months, you're going to have a rhythm to your life that's sustaining.
Right.
So it's some of the same principles just applied to this as an emotional support tool that we have. So
awesome.
I thought that was unplanned, but it seemed relevant. Okay, so choosing your oil. So we talked, a little bit about where sort of the touchstone idea of having an oil or a word that resonates with you. And so I think what I just want to encourage you to do is, if you've got a spot to take notes or just take mental notes, as we're talking through the oils and the concepts and what they represent, notice what's happening in terms of how you're thinking about that, how that's making you feel, and what you're noticing in your body. If you feel an excitement or a quickening of the heart, or you feel like something in your gut that kind of says, yeah, that's what you need, or you notice maybe just a response of some kind in your physical, mental, or emotional, then just take note of that and be curious about it and see what you're drawn to. And then we'll talk more about that at the end of the sessions as we go through the oils. One thing I wanted to say about that as well is just that, you might be drawn to several oils. And I use all of these oils, and I reach for them for different reasons. And so there's going to be some things that resonate, but we want to look for what's the one that maybe feels like you want to prioritize and consistently emphasize this year, just like Rebecca did with that, like that concentrated plan to say, I need the stress support. And so I want to do that consistently for that particular need. That's not like she never reached for release or never reached for joy or never reached for other oils. So you might be drawn to several, and that's awesome. And you can use them all. So Rebecca, why don't you start us off?
Yep. So the first one we're going to talk about is Valor. And one thing I like about Valor is it's a blue oil, which is cool. And it smells fantastic. It's a very beautiful oil, and it comes in a roll-on. Sarah has it there. You can get it in a 5 ml or in a roll-on. So the actual definition of Valor is great courage in the face of danger. Now, and this blend contains spruce, rosewood, blue tansy, and frankincense. And this blend is designed and formulated to help build courage, confidence, and self-esteem. Helps us overcome fear and opposition. And we all have situations in our everyday that where we need a little bit more boldness, or we need a little bit more courage and bravery. And that is what this oil is for. And that is what this oil does. And this is not in my notes, but this blend is actually formulated from a historic recipe that the Roman soldiers used to use before going to battle. And if you're into history in the British archives, in the military section, you will actually find the recipe of the essential oils that the Roman soldiers used. So they would put that on before going to battle, before leaving their families. And so Gary Young formulated Valor after that same blend that they used, which I think that's pretty cool. This is also nicknamed chiropractor in a bottle because it's awesome for back pain and any kind of discomfort that you have. You can actually apply it. Kind of one rule with oils is put it where you need it. If your back hurts, put it right where it hurts and just see what happens. For me, I put this on my wrists. I'll put it on the back of my neck. Sometimes I'll put it like on the sides of my neck, just so I can be smelling it and just for support. And one testimony I have of this is one time I was asked to share in front of a large group, and my first reaction, I had said yes, of course, say yes. And my physical response started to kind of show a little bit of stress and panic a little bit. So I was like, oh, nope, put my Valor on, and everything just calmed. And then you do what you got to do. So this is a great one. If you're feeling like you need a little bit more boldness or a little bit more confidence or courage as we walk into 2021, then this might be the oil for you.
Yes. And I would just echo that and say that I know some people who are in settings where, from a faith standpoint, their thoughts and beliefs are being challenged and they're having to stand strong. And, I often think of Valor as, that armor of God idea as well, where it's like we're equipping ourselves, we're anointing ourselves with this oil for the spiritual battle that we're in as well. So if that resonates with you, that may be another sort of angle with Valor. And I always use Valor. I love, 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 love it. I would not be without it. People think I'm insane, but yeah, I think it's probably one of their best selling oils. I'm guessing, but that's
Definitely.
probably true, right, Rebecca? Yeah. So joy is one that I think I was sharing earlier before we started that, some of the ones that have more floral tones in them, I'm just not as drawn to them initially, but I have persevered with a number of them because of what they do for us. So joy is a very, very popular oil. And I have a friend who has reported that she just finds herself reaching for this one a lot, like just instinctively being like, I need a little bit of joy. And I also know there's one of the Instagram Young Living people from the United States. I think her name's Oily. She has like Oily Rose Essentials or whatever. She always talks about putting joy over her heart. And so usually I will just like tip it like this. So there's a little drop on my finger and then just rub it in over my heart. And so she does that twice a day, morning and night. And that's how she applies her joy. And so this is a way to promote some feelings of love, some feelings of confidence. It can help you process your grief. So if you're feeling like you just need that rejuvenation from being in a low point or having some sadness in your life, it can kind of help shift that mood for you. It can bring some balance to your system. But also I think the scent is just sort of invigorating and energizing as well. And it can feel like a lift, right? So when you look at the definition of joy, like a feeling of great pleasure and happiness, I think that oil will do that. Like there have been times when I've just felt kind of like sluggish and low emotionally or feeling like low mood, like sadness. And so between this one and bergamot, which there's bergamot in this one, it's the first ingredient because it's wonderful for processing grief. I will grab for this to make that mood shift, to bring myself sort of out of that that energy to a different energy. So again, this has been a heavy, heavy year. Maybe you're feeling like 2021, you need to recapture your joy. And so this might be an oil for you.
Okay, then we have abundance. And this is the one that Sarah shared her testimony about already. And abundance means plentifulness of the good things of life. And This is a really amazing blend. It smells fabulous. It has orange, frankincense, patchouli, clove, ginger, myrrh, cinnamon bark, and spruce. So those are a lot of really bold scents already. And so this does have a really great aroma.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a right hint of cinnamon and spice. So it's really awesome. This really helps cultivate an abundance mindset. So we can either have a poverty mindset or an abundance mindset. And sometimes the things through our upbringing or life experiences, we can tend to shift more towards a poverty mindset, but that is not a healthy mindset for us to be living in and walking with. And so using this abundance oil will help shift your mindset from focusing on lack to focusing on abundance, and it can help bring balance to the body. And I love Sarah's testimony because that's really powerful in through such a year that we've just come through, 2020, to see all the things that have shifted and changed for Sarah in her life. And it's just amazing how it really matters what we focus on. And so if, for me, if I find that I'm focusing more on the negative or on the lack, then this is the oil to go to because, Sarah had mentioned that, God has said he will give us life and life abundantly. And if we want to be walking in abundance and thinking in the mindset of abundance, this is a really great oil to support us in that direction. And so really, really, really great one. I love to diffuse this one, especially in the summer because of the photosensitivity.
And the plentifulness idea, it's like that's a good word. It's a funny word because it kind of gets caught as a spell check word, but that is the word from the actual dictionary definition. And it's this idea of like overflowing, like, and the things that we need, the things that are genuinely good in our lives, and that might not be business expansion like it was for me, or it might not have anything to do with finances whatsoever, or with growth in that sense. It could be just more grounded in your faith. It could be feeling like you're more able to recognize things that you're grateful for, and there's so many ways that could be interpreted, but I love that, like, the plentifulness is like there's no shortage, and it feels like coming out of 2020 there's a lot of things that feel like there's a shortage of, and that's not, as Rebecca says, like a good mindset. So love that word. Acceptance. This is another one that I got. I think it was a promo where we got abundance and acceptance together at one point on the Essential Rewards program with Young Living. And this is a beautiful, beautiful oil. You'll notice that it has, I'm just trusting that people can kind of skim through the ingredients there and stuff, but I want to highlight that anything that has blue tansy seems to be amazing. So there's a number of these that will have blue tansy, which actually make it blue, like a little tinge of blue. I'm almost out of this one, but it is a really, really lovely oil. And it's one that I would recommend, like Peace and Calming, because they're not like super inexpensive oils. The blends are quite a high quality oil. These are great ones to make up a bunch of rollers in 10 ml roller bottles to make them go a little further. So this is one that I have a roller top on, but I've been thinking many times, just like my Peace and Calming, I need to put this into like half a dozen roller bottles so that I can have them in all the places. And you can do that with any of your oils, but particularly with this one. So this idea is, from acceptance, is this idea of being able to, tolerate is kind of seems like a negative word, but being able to sort of sit with and accept and receive difficulty and strain and challenges, and not have a posture of like resistance. So often I'll talk about with emotional growth and things with my clients, we often have a posture of our emotions or of our circumstances like this, where we're like pushing back against it. And acceptance is more of a welcoming posture with like an open-handed, I receive this, I accept this. It's not a denial in the sense of like things are wonderful and I'm coloring this in a way that's not real, but it's more of this, I'm secure and I can receive this and tolerate, in the best sense of that word, what's happening, without that resistance, without that trying for it to be something else, just being able to sit with things. And so I find this one's really good, and I reach for it when I am having something that I'm struggling with, that I'm wrestling with internally or thinking about or ruminating on. And I'm like, when I realize there's something that I can't control about the situation, and I'm trying to control the situation, I often will reach for acceptance, because I have to accept that there are parts of this that I can't control, that I have no control over. And so I feel like that's where I need to sit with it. And so I'll often do like a deep breathing with that, or roll it on and just kind of say, okay, I can receive this. I can relinquish the control that I don't have anyways, and accept it. So.
So the next one is peace and calming. And this is another really popular one with Young Living. It smells fantastic. Also a hint of blue. One of my favorites. It just smells great. So
my kids, sorry to interrupt, Rebecca. My kids say it smells like jelly beans and gummy bears. That's their description of what it smells like. And if you smell it, it does.
Yes.
Like it's just this beautiful candy vibe.
Yes. Lots,
delicious.
Just the right blend of citrus and the blue tansy. So when we think of peace, we think of mental calm and serenity. Calm is not showing or feeling nervousness, anger, or other strong emotions. And you know what? Peace and calming can help with all of those emotions that can sometimes be all over the place and intense. So it can help with depression, anxiety, stress, and tension. And it kind of helps keep things a little bit more even keel without the highs and the lows. And it can help promote relaxation and relieve insomnia just from the calm. You know, helps relax our bodies. When our bodies are tense and our minds are tense, that can add a lot of stress to our physical bodies that affects our ability to rest and sleep. And having these oils, peace and calming in particular, can just really help bring that peace and calm that we need to our minds, to our hearts, to our bodies. And when we're calm, we can make better decisions. When we're calm, we are better people, better in our relationships, and in life. We can face things more confidently when we have a calming strength about us. And so that is why this is one of the oils that I chose when my husband was deployed, was for peace and calm. We have 3 kids, and you know, every day you need a little bit of calm. And so this is a great one. Smells amazing. Some of these oils you can wear as a perfume. And you know, when I had first learned about toxins and getting things out of my home that was interfering with my health, perfume was the hardest thing for me to give up. But I have found oils that are so good for my health that smell amazing. So no longer using the fake fragrance, but using healthy, good smelling oils to as a perfume and for emotional support. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's a top seller for sure. And my kids love it. So they often will roll it. I make rollers for them. They'll often roll it on or diffuse it at bedtime. This is great. What's the next one is we going? Oh, Harmony. Yes. So this is actually an oil that I have not tried. So Rebecca can speak to it a little bit too if I miss anything when I'm talking about it. At least I don't own it. So I probably have tried it with you, Rebecca, but I don't own it right now. So it's going to go on my wish list for sure. So the idea of harmony is like that. I love the words in the definition, like that pleasing and consistent whole. So having harmony in your life feels like you're sort of holistically integrated, I guess is how I would think about that. And one of the things I think about is, oh, hello, Lisa. One of the things I think about is the idea of having a work-life harmony as opposed to a work-life balance. So it's hard to balance things. Like it's like, oh, I have some home time, I have some work time. It's more like, how do these things integrate and make, like, if you think about music, like make a beautiful music where there's this thread, this harmonized thread against the melody of your life. And it's sort of a neat concept. So if you're looking for balance, you know, that holistic health and well-being, Harmony might be a really good option for you. And if you look at the list of oils in there, it's like chock-a-block full of tons of really good high end oils.
Mhm.
Like there's tons and tons of stuff in there. You'll see the ingredients list is so long. So this is one that, you know, you can overcome some negativity and have like that positive, holistic vibe. And of course, it helps reduce stress and makes you feel like you have that overall well-being. So Harmony is a great one. I'm definitely, it's spoiler alert, it's not my choice for the year, although it could be. And but I'm going to add it to my collection for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a great one. It smells really beautiful. It's floral, but not really too floral. So I like to put this in the diffuser when the kids are fighting. Just stir up a little bit of Harmony. Okay, the next one is forgiveness. This is a little tiny, well, it's a 5 ml, but a powerhouse. So when we think of forgiveness, it's the action or process of forgiving, or being forgiven. And one thing that I don't know why it took me so long to learn this one, but I was in my 20s when I realized I actually had to forgive myself for things. I'd always been familiar with the concept of forgiving others, but I never thought of forgiving myself. And so that was a huge light bulb moment for me. But sometimes it's hard to forgive. Sometimes it's hard to let go of things, either when we've been hurt or things didn't go the way we thought they would, or we had expectations, and there's just so many things that can stir up the need for forgiveness in our life and in our everyday. And so this oil is amazing for supporting that. It helps one forgive, forget, let go, and move on with their lives. And it has a really powerful effect of helping people move past barriers in their life. And sometimes we fear the forgiveness and the letting go because of the pain that might cause in our hearts of reopening a wound, or facing something that was really hard for us. And that is why we have these oils. The process is often more gentle than we thought it was going to be. It's often faster than we thought it was going to be. And it's a beautiful thing. And so if you feel like you're someone who has trouble letting go, or has trouble forgiving, or you have things from your past that it's time to forgive and let go, then this might be the oil for you for 2021. And it's a great little one. It smells fabulous. Really, really beautiful one.
It's on my wish list as well. I don't have that one yet, Rebecca.
Okay.
I'll have to order it. And I love the idea. I teach in with my clients as well about forgiveness as a daily spiritual practice. So that it's a great one to pair with an oil that we want to use consistently, because we forgive others as we are being forgiven. Like that's part of sort of the Lord's Prayer, that daily spiritual practice idea. And so it's a great one for that. Okay, so Awaken, am I on the right slide?
Yes.
I love this one as well. This was a freebie with an ER order, and I had not tried it. And it has been a huge seller. It's been very popular. If you know anything about the Enneagram, it's been very popular with my Enneagram 9s, who tend to have difficulty with withdrawing and want to be more present and engaged in their lives. And so this idea of Awaken, in terms of sleepwalking through your life, sometimes we can be very disengaged and withdrawn, and Awaken kind of brings us into the present moment. It's not so much, although it could, I suppose, in the morning invigorate you from sleep. It's not so much necessarily that physical thing that I think of when I think of Awaken. I think more about being fully present and engaged in the moment. And of course, it's got present time in it. So that's a part of that vibe. But it's also often paired for people with like a yoga practice, for example, where they might diffuse this at the start to kind of be really engaged and present in their bodies. Maybe a prayer practice, something like that. So it's really great for supporting emotional and spiritual well-being overall. And it has a beautiful, beautiful scent. And if I remember correctly, it's a pretty great price point as well as a blend. And interesting that it has when you look at what it has in it, it has blends that we've already mentioned in
Mhm.
it, right? So it's got some joy, which is already a blend, and forgiveness and harmony.
Mhm.
So that's, again, a really great way of getting some bang for your buck there, where you're able to incorporate a number of those emotional support oils, which is sometimes interesting to think about. I don't always think about that, but when you have a blend as part of a blend, you're really getting quite an awesome assortment of oils
Mhm.
going into your system. So I do love this one, and I do reach for it often. Off usually as like a scent tent, where I'll do just like a few deep breaths just to kind of bring myself back into the present moment, or like to be mindful. So
Mm.
it's great.
And I think this was the only one that is only formulated with blends. That's really neat.
Oh,
Yeah.
very cool.
Okay, believe. This one, I have a roller top on this because we roll this one on all the time. So to believe is to accept something as true, to feel sure of the truth, and to have faith. And so this is a really great one for support for faith, for belief in yourself, belief in other people, belief that in good things can happen to you. And this blend is formulated for calming and grounding. And you can see it has lots of tree oils in it: Idaho balsam fir, frankincense is calming, Idaho blue spruce. The tree oils have an amazing way of just calming and grounding you. And so this blend has several of those in here. It also helps stimulate the mind while calming the body, which is really important because, you know, we want the mind alert, we want the mind active, and we want our bodies calm. And it helps promote positive action towards goals and dreams, but by helping you believe in yourself, believing good things are possible, believing you can do things. And so if you feel like you need a little bit more support and believing in yourself, and believing, sometimes when we dream dreams or envision things for our lives, we sometimes our first thought is, how am I going to do that, or I can't do that, or why would that happen to me? Well, this oil helps us kind of cancel those thoughts and just stir up a boldness and a confidence to just go for it, see what can happen, see what you can do. And so this is a really great one. This is a good one that men tend to like. And I often say that is men like tree oils. That's the ones they tend to go to. And so this smells very woodsy. Smells great, fabulous. So it's a good one to roll on or diffuse while you're sleeping, or diffuse in the house while you're stirring up some belief for yourself. It's affecting the other people in your home as well when you're diffusing the oils. So this is a really, really great one. Smells amazing and helps, gives you that boost to believe in yourself, and just really good calming grounding oil.
The only reason I don't have it here is I used mine up entirely at Christmas, diffusing on my little Bethlehem trees from the Christmas catalog. I used it in the bathroom and diffused it, and it's 100% gone because I love it so much. So it's on my next order. So clarity is an interesting one. This is one where I would say I don't love the scent of it, but there are, and I have it at the store and in my office because that's where I use it. So I don't actually have it to show you here, but excuse me. It's great for mental alertness, for learning new things, for remembering things. It oxygenates the brain. It stimulates energy. It's great for people who struggle with brain fog. So I have a thyroid condition, and brain fog can sometimes be a part of what we experience because of that. And lots of people can, for like concussion symptoms. There's all kinds of reasons, just lack of sleep sometimes. There's a foggy brain. It could be really great to lift some of that. A lot of students use this one because they're engaged in really intense learning and they're trying to stay focused and have that coherence and ability to listen clearly and take in new information. So it's a great one to diffuse, you know, if you're doing a lot of studying, or if you're just needing that focus and clarity, as it's called, for your life or your goals or your next steps. in decision making, for example. So it's a really beautiful one. The reason I say I don't love the smell of it is sometimes I'm really drawn to the scent of things, of course, but there's ones that I use because they're so exceptionally good for what they do that it's not about the scent. So an example of that would be Digize, which is our digestive oil, which is amazing, but does not smell great, but it works so well that I would absolutely not be without it. So sometimes when we're doing our work, doing what's good for us, it may not be because, oh, that smells great. It may be because this is what we need, right? And so we use what we need because we know that's the support that our body, our mind, our emotions is looking for. So this is also packs a punch. If you look at the ingredients list, lots of really great oils there. And it's often paired with another one that's coming up, I believe, maybe even next. Let's see. No, not next.
It's coming up soon.
Okay.
So the next one is envision, and envision means to imagine as a future possibility or to visualize. And so this one is a really great one for emotional support. I have a roller on this one as well. It helps one move forward with renewed faith in the future toward achieving one's goals and dreams. And sometimes, we can get stuck, and sometimes it's hard to envision what can be next, or where should I be going, or what direction should I take. And this just helps kind of free those thoughts and free those dreams and hopes that we have in our heart. We all have hopes and dreams in our heart, and sometimes they can get buried, sometimes they can be dulled, and sometimes we just put them on the shelf and they get dusty. But this can help unlock those dreams, unlock those visions that we have for ourselves, for our families, for our life, for personal achievements or things we want to do and accomplish in our life. This can really help kind of stir that up again, because sometimes we can kind of put that on the back burner and it doesn't take a place of priority in our lives, but it really actually is very important for our well-being, that we are moving forward, that we are progressing, that we are striving for things and changing good things in our life. And so this is an amazing oil. It smells really great, just for helping move us if we ever feel stuck, in what can we imagine for ourselves for this year in 2021. I know it can be hard sometimes to just think, where should I be going? What should I be doing? What direction should I take? And this is a really great oil to kind of help stir that up and get things moving in that direction for you.
So energy, that is a word that often gets thrown around because people really are often lacking energy. And sometimes that can relate to emotional fatigue, physical fatigue, mental fatigue. Like there's lots of reasons why people are looking for some more energy and vitality. And so I love that energy, represents that strength that we need to sustain, what is required of us in that day or in that moment. And so one of the things I use this for, again, is if I'm getting into, I often have last year I've had tons of clients, and I will have like a full day, and around 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, I hit sort of a low slump. And usually that's when I reach for energy, and I also reach for Ningxia. So that's my point in the afternoon where I need that boost. So I often will pair this with Ningxia to just give me that energy boost naturally to get through the rest of the day. And so that's often a slump time for people, I think, that mid to late afternoon time where people often will reach for like caffeine or reach for a sugary snack or something like that. And so if you can boost that with an oil, if you're struggling with energy, maybe that energy low point is the first when you get up in the morning, you're having trouble like kind of getting out and getting going for the day. Maybe that's when you would want to use energy. But if you're just feeling like you need that boost, that the invitation out of that sluggishness, or just needing a little bit of vitality, this is a great one. And again, you can interpret wherever that energy is needed. This will help support your system in that revitalization. And I have found that this oil and Ningxia have been the best things for energy, if that's something that you're looking for. And if you don't know what Ningxia is already, or you're curious about it, we can get you information about that later as well. But for those of you who use it, you know what I'm talking about. So
So this is an oil that I often pair with Clarity. And
yes.
if I know I have some work I need to do, or a task I've somewhat been avoiding, or been on my mind, I'll put Clarity and Energy on the back of my neck and just get at it. And it's amazing how it just shifts your focus and clears the air, and it just gives you what you need to get it done. And so for me, I find it lasts about 4 hours. If I put that on the back of my neck, I'll have a super productive time. And again, I don't use that one because of how I like the smell, but because of what it does for me. Okay, so release. This one, beautiful. Smells great. Yep. So when we release something, it means allow or enable to escape from confinement, to set free, to allow something to move or flow freely. And as emotional beings, we sometimes hold on to things that we should actually be letting go. And so this oil release is formulated to help one let go of negative emotions, particularly anger and hate. This blend also helps release feelings of frustration. And applying this oil, it goes right down to the cellular level and helps release those little pockets of anger and hate and frustration that we're carrying and that we've been storing in our bodies and in our cells, sometimes for a really, really, really long time. And when we are holding on to a lot of emotional things, it really affects our day. It affects how we interact with other people. It affects how we make decisions. It affects our peace and our calm. And we don't want to be carrying extra things with us as we walk through our day. We want to be free to notice all the blessings and notice all the good things, and be full of love and joy to share with other people. But when we're carrying a lot of things and our focus is looking back at things that have either hurt or frustrated us, that's not a healthy stance to be in. And so this oil of release really helps us kind of cleanse all those things that we've been carrying that we don't need to be carrying every day. And like I had mentioned earlier, sometimes we think that letting go of things is going to hurt, but often it's better than we thought it was going to be, or we see amazing things shift after we let go of things. So in my experience, it has always been worth it. I sometimes could fear that it might be painful or embarrassing or just too much, but in my experience, it's actually been so worth it. So this oil is a really great support if you feel like you're just needing to let go of a few things, or if you tend to find your responses of anger or negativity. This is a really great one for supporting those emotions, and it smells great.
It does smell amazing. And it's also from the emotional cleanse, right? Is that where yeah. So it's often used, Rebecca does an emotional cleanse system, I'll call it, strategy, where it's like a process of going through and releasing sort of the emotional toxins and garbage that builds up, and release is part of that. And so that's where I was introduced to it. And I feel like this is one that relates very much to liberating ourselves, right? Like not being bogged down. And even from the standpoint of things like resentments or problematic thinking, like if you have patterns of thinking that are really not serving you well, pairing something like a release oil to allow that to be removed, and to be let go of. I'm not going to think that way anymore. That's really important. So yeah, anyway, I love it. Love it. Okay. Surrender. So surrender is a new one to me. And a friend of mine who is also a Young Living person, she started to use it for emotional release as well. And when she's a psychotherapist like myself, and she would use this at the end of a day where she was carrying a lot of stuff forward from the emotions of her her sessions and her clients, and just to give herself an emotional release. And sometimes this can be that abandoning, that laying down, that yielding can actually bring forward emotions that need to be worked through. So sometimes it can actually trigger like tears or like a catharsis emotionally, which is really good. But you want to be aware of surrendering, like, you know, in the middle of your workday, for example. Might not be the best time to use that oil, because it might unlock some things for you where you're not expecting that. So this is another one that has all kinds of beautiful oils in it. It's calming and relaxing. It's this idea of releasing what we can control, what we can't control again, and surrendering that and saying, you know, we've had a year where we've realized that most of what we think we can control is an illusion anyways. And so this one just allows you to have, again, that open-handed kind of posture that we were talking about before. Like a lot of times we feel like we're like white knuckling and, you know, we can be really trying to strive and make things happen, which, you know, in and of itself is not necessarily a bad thing. But if it's like a tension within us, then if we can just move forward, you know, surrender is not, I'm not taking action. It's just a posture of trust, right? And non-striving. And so I, again, envision it as this open-handed, not white knuckling, but like an open-handed receiving of what 2021 is going to bring, and, you know, doing our part, but then releasing the part that we don't control. So it can reduce anxiety and stress and clear your mind for that reason, because you're not ruminating on the things that you are surrendering. You're, you know, so in that sense, it kind of pairs with release, like you're letting go of the things that you don't need to cling to. So I love it. It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
And one thing it makes me think of is, you know, surrendering to God. You know, what does our life look like? Does it look like we thought it was going to? Does God have different plans for our lives than we wanted or than we thought it would be? Sometimes we just need to surrender to what God has for us. And I think the word trust is so key here, is we just have to trust that God has got this. We have to trust that he has good things for us. And we have to trust that his plan is better than our plan. I know I can plan out my year and my life, but I really have to surrender to what God has for us. And he knows the full picture. We don't. So sometimes it's hard to let go of that and to surrender to his plan. So, hey, we are going to talk about our picks and why. So for me, the oil I chose, it's funny, I kind of had an oil in mind, but then as I was actually preparing the slides for this and I was writing down what they are and what they do, I was like, oh, forgiveness is my oil for this year, because I've learned that it takes me a long time to forgive and a really long time to let go. And I know that's not a healthy way to be. And I don't want to be that way. It actually takes serious intention to be quick to forgive and quick to let it go. And so I've decided that this year, that is going to be my focus. I'm going to put this oil on every day, probably on my heart, maybe on my ears, which may sound really silly, but that's what I'm going to do. We actually have a lot of acupuncture points, pressure points on our ears. And so I'm going to put my oils there and on my heart. And I'm excited to see what that might do. I know there's some really great key oils in here. And yeah, just like when I use those other oils, 6 months, every day, things happened I didn't anticipate. So I'm going to use this with the intention of being more aware of forgiveness in my life, forgiving myself, forgiving others, and letting go. And so I'm excited to see what else might happen too.
That's awesome. Every oil I listen to, I'm like, I want that oil and I want to put that on and give me more of it. So it's hard to focus on one. And certainly, you know, I think it's important to have like a collection of oils so that you can reach for things intuitively as you're going about your days too, you know, and realizing what is it that I need. And one of the things I love about oils that I always say is we start to pay attention and check in with ourselves, and then we can attend to that need with an oil. So if we notice that we have, you know, we're carrying some resentment towards someone, we can reach for forgiveness, right? If we notice that we're feeling really low mood or energy, we can reach for joy. But part of the beauty of it is we start to pay attention and not dismiss what our needs are, and we pause, and we take a few deep breaths and we care for ourselves. So it's such a beautiful sort of pairing of those strategies. Like oils really help you to do all that really good work. That's even separate from oil. So I love that about it. So my pick for this year is surrender. I was sort of dancing around a few different words, but ultimately, I am on a major faith journey with my practice and my business and what's happening with all of the components of that. And I have felt that this year, just, I think because of having to pivot so many times and shift, I have really needed to work hard and use a lot of my own energy and maybe too much striving. And so surrender to me is more like just having a posture where I'm not going to carry that as solely my own to bear, and not relying on my own strength to like just make it happen. More just surrendering to like, okay, what is this year going to look like as far as the growth of the business and who we need to serve in the community and the people who come in for appointments with me or with my team. And, just holding that, again, not white knuckling it through this year. Like I feel like I did a little bit through 2020, just because, who opens a storefront business and expands their business in the middle of a pandemic? Like it's not really necessarily advisable. So it felt a bit like this. And so I really want to have this posture of just saying like it's okay. Like I'm gonna have like come what may, it's and I don't have to strive, and I can trust, right? Like we talked about with surrender. So surrender is my word and focus oil for this year. One of the things I wanted to say just before we hop on for a second, well, we can look at this one too, but I think if you are listening to these words and you still haven't, you don't feel that there's one that's resonating or representing what you feel you need for the year, there's a couple of different ways you can think about that. One of the things Rebecca and I were talking about is that we've focused on the Canadian oils. There's a bunch of other oils on the NFR side, which is the American side. And when you have an account with Young Living, you can order from the American side. So just a couple as an example are Gratitude and Grounding, right? That I pulled out that I love from the American side, which also might be good. So if you don't have to land necessarily on your word for today. You might just be beginning to think about this concept and you want to take some time, but there may be other oils that are available that we haven't highlighted that would pair really well. And the other thing I would say is if you have a word that really resonates, you might pair an oil that doesn't have the same word, but that represents the idea. So for example, Lisa, I hope it's okay that I'm sharing this, but Lisa was thinking about freedom as her word and feeling like she, wants to liberate herself. So to me, release is the oil that pairs really beautifully with that. So even if it doesn't actually have the word on the oil, the concept is to liberate yourself, to let go, to be free, right? And so maybe there's an oil, there's a word that really is standing out to you, but you're pairing it with an oil that maybe doesn't have the same word. And that's fine, right? You can incorporate the two of them into, your own version of this practice, the way it makes sense to you and the way, pairing makes sense to you. You might have something like serenity or solitude or something like that feels like the word that you need. And so you might pair it with frankincense, to do some spiritual work, to do some contemplative or meditative work. So we've obviously done this in sort of a clever way of pairing it up, but there's lots of ways that you could think about it if you're not feeling like something is really resonating from what we have shared. And Rebecca and I will, of course, help you out with that if you want some further direction. So,
and one oil blend that I grabbed from the NFR side is Hope.
Yes.
This is a really good one too. Sometimes we need a little bit more hope in our hearts. And the Bible actually says hope deferred makes the heart sick. And hope is just, it's right up there with faith, hope, and love. And it's a really key aspect of our lives and of our faith. And so this is a really great one as well. This one's on the NFR side, and it's a part of the emotional cleanse routine, that the protocol that we do as well. So that's just another one to think about.
So once you've chosen your word and your oil, there's sort of like, okay, so I've got this word, like, what do I do now? Like, how do I use it? How do I make it a part of my life? So I've just given a few examples here, and this might be one that you want to screenshot if you are listening, just because it's got a few different things that you can kind of refer back to, either jot those down or just some ideas of how, and this is true of how to incorporate oils in general, but just some ideas. So one is that signature scent. Rebecca and I both talked about not having toxic perfumes and wanting to have that daily scent that resonates with us. And so for some of these, they're beautiful as perfumes. And if you love that scent, maybe you do just apply it topically to your wrist or your neck or your ears or wherever. And so that could be one way you could use it. You could also just decide, this is the oil I'm going to diffuse while I'm sleeping. So let's say you're choosing peace and calming. Maybe you want to just say, I'm going to do that nightly for this year. Like, that's just going to be my nightly oil, and see what happens, So, again, that's an easy way to get it in your system sort of passively, but, through your sleep. So there may be ones like that you feel you want to build that. You could build it into a spiritual practice. Like I talked about, awaken with yoga, or, wanting to do release as maybe a prayer posture, or forgiveness, even as something that you're using to journal, or to, have a quiet time, or a time of meditation or contemplation. You can incorporate it into that time, diffusing it, or using it topically, or just smelling it right out of the bottle as part of your spiritual practice. You could use it spontaneously. So you could just, like I was suggesting with some of them, you could put it into a bunch of rollers, like peace and calming, for example. You could make a bunch of rollers up and have them everywhere. So your purse, your desk drawer, your bedside table, your makeup bag, wherever, and just apply it whenever you're in those spaces and feel the inclination throughout the day. So it can be more of a spontaneous, like, I'm just going to use this one consistently and have it everywhere that I want to use it. And then one of the classic things with oils is to do like the scent tent, which is basically just a breathing technique. So I'll just show you. If you just put a drop of oil in your hand, this is grounding that I'm using right now, and then you just rub your hands together like this. Nice. Grounding. Oh my gosh, I love grounding. It's on the end. I want it to come to Canada. We can get it, but I would like to be able to sell it at the store because I think it's amazing. So it's got a beautiful, again, like piney, woodsy, forest bathing kind of scent. So then you just rub one drop and then make a mask, a little scent tent, and then just do some deep breathing, right? And you can just take that right in. And it's important when you're doing deep breathing from a breath work standpoint, from psychotherapy, is really bring the breath fully into your stomach. Your stomach should expand fully. You should feel your stomach coming out. So if you feel like you want to be sure of that, put one hand on your stomach and then just do the cupping with the other hand. Pull it fully down, because we often breathe really high up here. And in order to get the full effect of that, we want to take it in deep, deep breaths. And sometimes what can help with this, and this might be a way of even clarifying like your particular interpretation of your word, is to have a little mantra that goes on along with that. So for example, as you're breathing in, you might be saying something like, I'm like, if it's surrender for me, I could be saying like, I'm doing the best that I can. I'm doing the best that I can, right? Or it could be like a breath prayer of some kind, like, Lord, give me your peace, right? If you're doing peace and calming. So you can attach like a mantra or a breath prayer or something, again, as just a way of incorporating it into bringing your focus and attention, again, attending to that need that you've identified. So lots of different ways. There's probably a lot more than this. These are just a few ideas, but wanted to give you some tangible ways to like actually use your oils, because they're not any good to you if you don't use them. They can sit on the shelf, but that's not going to help you. They look pretty, but you want to actually be using them and incorporating them and going to them as a tool. So hopefully these are some good ideas. You want me to start here?
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. I know I had a lot of fun with this, and I'm going to take a little bit of time and think of that that little prayer to say when I'm inhaling or when I'm diffusing or when I face those moments of needing to use forgiveness. I'm going to take some time and really, prepare that to head into this new year with that intention of being quick to forgive and quick to forgive even myself. So I'm going to close this up and we'll turn off the camera and then we'll discuss a few things from the class and take some of our favorite
Just
takeaways.
quickly before you do that, Rebecca, before you stop, just to let people know who might be listening after, we do have lots of spots where you can get connected. So if you're just starting to learn about oils or you want more support, I have a Voxer group that Rebecca and I are both active on. Voxer is a free app. You can download it. It's great. We just share tips and tricks and information and ask questions. And it's a great way to go back and forth, even individually one-on-one there. Rebecca's got a great Facebook group with her sister Hannah, who is also in Young Living, which anybody's welcome to be a part of, and we can connect you to that. And also, as I always say, we do a free oily consultation at the store, and we can do that over the phone or over Zoom or whatever, and get you started. Like, we really want you to feel supported in this journey. So if you're listening, if you're with us or you're listening at another time and you want that connection, please do reach out, because there's lots of support and it's a beautiful community of people to be a part of. So just know that if you're wanting to know what to do for next steps, we're here for you.
Absolutely.
And thanks for coming and listening.
Yes, yes. And one of the kind of mantras for Young Living is wellness, purpose, and abundance. And we all start Young Living for different reasons, whether we're looking for wellness or we're looking for more purpose or we're looking for abundance, but we often end up getting all three. And so, yes, thank you for sharing your time with us. I hope you've enjoyed this. I know that Sarah and I had a lot of fun putting it together, and we're excited to hear what word you pick and how that plays out for you this year. So we look forward to hearing from you.